2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Purlwise Podcast, knitting all day, let's look at it together. Purlwise Podcast, stitch by stitch, we can make whatever. Stitch by stitch, it's made by your friend Claire.
Okay, hi. My name's Claire. This is Purlwise, a space where I talk about the things that I've been making on YouTube in a very irregular way. It's been a long time for a variety of reasons, some of which may come up over the course of this. I don't know. But I've been wanting to record for months now, and it's just things have never aligned correctly. But I'm here today, gonna give it a shot. And since it has been, I guess it's been since December. I guess my last regular podcast was in December. Does that make sense? And then I did my Everything I Knit in 2023 video at the beginning of February. I just have lots of stuff, and I'm part of what's taken so long is that I'm a bit overwhelmed by all of the stuff that I have to show you. But my idea is maybe today or right now we talk about finished things and spinning, and then the plan, which don't hold your breath, but we'll see. Hopefully I'll have another video soon talking about what I'm working on now and sewing. So, sounds like a great plan. Will it happen? Let's see. So welcome back. Like I said, my name's Claire. I live in Montreal. Wish I had an easy way to sum myself up, but I don't. I used to be able to say I was a student. I'm not a student anymore. I'm working 3 jobs. I like to make stuff. And yeah, let's just start. I'll start with what I'm wearing. You may remember this if you've been watching for a while. This is a rib lace raglan that I started in September last year. I think I took it with me. I knit the majority of it when I was on my trip to BC, to Gibson's in the fall. And I sort of set it aside because I didn't have enough yarn to finish it in the way that I wanted. The pattern, I think I made the 50, I don't know what size I made. Couldn't tell you, but it said in the pattern that I could do it with 2 skeins of Santolina, which is the called for yarn, and what I used, and that didn't end up working out for me. So this is pewter blue in the Santolina, and I ended up using 3 skeins. I ordered one a month ago or something and was able to finish it up. So I'll back up and show you more. So yeah, when I had last shown it and set it aside, I had knit to the recommended length in the pattern. I can't remember how many inches that was, but I did keep a marker for where it was. Ooh. Here. I should have put it in a more convenient place, but yeah, so I must have added about, I can't tell, this many inches, maybe 4 inches of extra length, so it falls at a good spot for me. And I had also been planning to knit the sleeves longer, but then when I tried that, sorry, the birds are I wonder if you can hear them, but I've got a lot of birds in my tree. When I had to knit the sleeves like maybe a couple inches longer than this, and I didn't like it. So I ended up just tearing them back, and I think I ended up doing about an inch of sleeve. So you can see it hits at a better spot relative to my waistband. When it was here, you can see it was just hitting at the bottom of like my bra, which meant that it just really wasn't covering anything. And I've also like changed size since I started this. I think were I to start it now, I'd probably make a larger size. I don't know if I was on gauge. Let's find out. I think it's relevant. Okay, I think I was trying to make, there's size XXL, which is supposed to be 55.25 inches around. I think my bust right now is 51 inches, so should have given me 4 and a bit of positive ease. When I measured this flat, it was measuring it at 52, but it's also kind of hard to determine because of the nature of the rib. The gauge was supposed to be 17 stitches over 4 inches. Let's see. 5, 10, 15. Okay, so my gauge is a little small. I'm getting more like 5, 10, 15, more like 18, which is not a huge difference, but I think that's why it's a bit smaller than I intended. But I really like it, and I really like the Santolina. And when I ordered the extra ball, actually, you can't, maybe this marker's for where the new ball started, I can't remember. I think it was the same dye lot. I didn't have the ball band from the old dye lot to check it against, but like this sleeve would have been the new ball. You can't tell. I can't tell. I feel like that kind of thing might show up on camera, but it's not. So, I mean, it helps that it's see-through and like there's other stuff going on underneath, but yeah, not a ton to say about this. I did the little I-cord neckline, which I'm happy with. I did it on the first try. I was a bit worried it was going to be tight, but it's not. This necklace is a tiny gummy bear. I don't know if you can see. My aunt gave it to me for Christmas. I've been called Claire Bear my entire life, so it feels appropriate. Yeah, so that's the rib lace. I am also wearing a Henrietta skirt. It's the Henrietta skirt by Spaghetti Western Sewing. I think I had, maybe in my Everything I Knit in 2023 video, I feel like I had pulled the pieces out and said, I'm trying to finish this. So I did finish it. I've been wearing it. And I really like it. It's quite long. I don't know if I can get far enough back to show you. I can't. Ankle length, I don't know. Which, yeah, I've never really made something that long before, but I was ready for it. And I'm happy with the length. And I have worn it a lot. I played a show with my band last week and I wore it and I felt good, and I saw a video of us playing and I was like, I feel good about that skirt, and I felt like I looked nice, so that's always nice. So yeah, that's what I'm wearing. First finished object. So these next two are 2 sweaters that I finished both in January, I think, or maybe early February for the second one. And this is another Longtime WIP that you may recognize from last spring. I think I cast this on. It's the Hanko sweater by Sari Nordland, which I knit using Noro Silk Garden Sock Solo in the colorway S1 or Omitama, and Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the color Oat. And yeah, this, I guess I kind of started too late in the season last year, and it ended up languishing, and I wasn't sure about the shape. And everybody said, I showed it here and said I was thinking of frogging it, and everyone said not to. So I finished it. And I'll put it on and show you what we got here. I do think it's nice to look at, but I don't know if I love the shape for me. But also, again, I finished this probably in February, and it really wasn't cool enough to wear it that often. I did wear it a few times, but the wheelie chair thing is funny. But seeing it in the camera, I like it like this. I kind of don't like this side view. I don't know. But it's done. I kind of feel weird in it. I'm having kind of a drop shoulder reckoning here, where I'm not sure I like drop shoulders. I think I talked about this when I initially started the sweater, that I don't love this construction. I didn't love doing it. You know, you have this like spine of stitches, and you increase on either side, and that's where all the increases are happening. This is really warm sweater. And I'm not sure, yeah, I didn't enjoy that construction and how it sat on the needles. And I also am not sure I like the fit. I don't know. I feel like, let me know what you think. It's just such a strange shape. I don't mind how the back is. It's more like this, and I wonder if this is how I picked up the stitches, but I'm pretty good at picking up stitches regularly. I think I don't love that it does this. I don't know. I wish I could be like, wow, I love this. But I'm not gonna rip it out or anything. I think I'll wait and see if it gets worn next winter, to make any sort of judgment call. But I do think the yarn is very beautiful. I of course did tubular bind off on everything, so if I do decide to rip it out, it's gonna be hard. I have to take it off. I'm so sorry. It's way too hot. And I also don't know how I feel about I don't know that I like the folded over neckband. I think it looks nice, but I don't think I like wearing it. But I do think part of that could be just the construction and how it sits. It does have short rows, but yeah. Anyways, I do think it's objectively very pretty. I'm just not sure. There's something, see how the angle that this sleeve comes out at? I should ask Rudy. First Rudy shout out. I should ask Rudy to look at theirs to see if it does something similar. Yeah. But yeah, that's the Hanko. Finished in January. And I do wish I loved it more because it was, on the whole, a very expensive sweater. Maybe my most expensive sweater ever. And it's like I bought a ball here and a ball there, so it wasn't like one. I don't know how much it was, and I don't want to know. So yeah, wish I could be more excited, but it'll go into storage and we'll see what happens next year. It's also like I change sizes so much. It very well could fit me quite differently next fall. And maybe I'll like it more. Who knows? So, throwing that on the couch. The second sweater I finished I started this in January and must have finished it early February. And it's the Port Sweater by Ozetta, which I knit in Newtown. But I think it was their birthday colorway last spring. They usually do a birthday colorway in May. Yeah, and I'll put this on briefly again. Also, very warm drop shoulder sweater. It's so funny, the lines where I changed balls are so apparent. They're also like, in this colorway there was a pretty big like gradation of different tones. So there is some like noticeable lines, which I didn't really plan for when I was doing the sweater. And ultimately I don't really care. The back was the most evident, obviously. But yeah, I don't mind. I don't remember the exact gauge that I knit this at because it was so long ago now, but I held this colorway of Newtown double, and it was a fairly thick colorway. So when I knit this at the gauge recommended in the pattern, in the swatch, it looked totally fine. But once I started actually making the sweater, and maybe I should have done a bigger swatch, I don't know. Once I started actually knitting the sweater, it was like very stiff. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. So I went up a needle size. And the fabric, I did another swatch, restarted, and the fabric was a lot nicer. So this is at a bigger gauge than intended. And as a result, it's pretty large. I did want it to be large. It's maybe a bit larger than I don't know. I've been going back and forth on how I feel about this. I think that drop shoulders are just not a construction I'm super comfortable in. I don't know. I don't look at myself and think that I have broad shoulders, but I think I do. What do you think? Yeah, weigh in on my body shape. Just kidding. Don't. I think I think it just drop shoulder anything does something to my shoulders that I'm not just super comfortable with, and that's fine. But looking at this in the camera now, I'm liking it. I've gone back and forth. Actually, like the first day I wore it, I was just wearing it around the house and I was making tea and I burnt it. I just reached up to get something, and because it's so big and I'm not used to wearing such a large sweater, the hem dragged across the element. And I was like, why does it smell like burning hair? But you can barely see it. It's fine. I just wool's kind of nice for that because it doesn't keep burning. It like goes out really quickly, and then I just sort of rubbed at it and the burnt parts fell away, and there's still a lot of fabric left. So just so you know. Yeah, and I picked this sweater. I really like the this detail mainly, and I knew I wanted something like really big and cozy. Yeah, and this kind of was a good, I don't know if it was good, but it kept me company through January. I didn't talk about this in my last video, but January was really, really hard for me, and I was having a really bad time with my mental health I know what the reason was, and it was that I was on a new birth control to try and deal with my bad brain, and then it made my brain worse in a different way. I feel like there are probably a lot of you who can relate. I have struggled with like PMDD, like premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is just like, I mean, it's a lot of things, but for me, I get very low moods before my period, and I think I was in a period of really bad burnout last fall that was hard to recognize while I was in it, and which it made the PMDD worse. So I decided to go on birth control to try and fix it, because that's what they usually do. That's kind of like the first thing that is tried for PMDD is birth control. And it did work briefly. I think it like got me out of a bad cycle. But then it started to, I don't know. I was having a lot of anxiety, to the point where I couldn't function. So in January, this is all I did. And I was like, I'm happy I have this to do. I'm happy like I have a project to knit on. But I wish I could do other things. Like, I didn't want my life to just be knitting a sweater, and that's what it was. But luckily, I realized what was happening at the end of January. I stopped taking that birth control, and I have felt really good ever since. So it's just taken me a little bit of time to like build back up to a place where I wanted to be on camera. So yeah, anyways, all that to say, I do feel like this isn't as warm as the other one. I'm not quite as uncomfortable. But yeah, looking at it in the camera, I do really like it. I like to wear it with my hair tucked in. I actually had a funny thing this winter where I went to a cabin for a weekend, like 3 times, like once a month almost. I went with my mom at the end of January, and then in early March, I went with my friends Gabby and Jess to a cabin kind of in the same area, and we went to a Nordic spa for a day, and that was really fun. And then for my birthday at the beginning of April, myself and my friend Scott have the same birthday, and us and Amory, who made the lovely theme song, we went to a cabin and we just like made food and did a puzzle and watched movies, and yeah, all 3 of those trips were so nice. But anyways, how did I get... I'm really going on a tangent. I haven't spoken to anyone today. I feel like I say that in every video, but yeah. I also I haven't left the house in a while, in a good way, I will say. But yeah, I wore this in March to the cabin, and it was still pretty cold out, but I had like this and my spring jacket, and that was like a perfect combo for the weekend. And it was fun to like sit by the fire in this really, really big sweater. So it's got so much positive ease. I don't even know how much. I think it's like 66 inches wide, which is about 15 inches of positive ease on me. Which I like. I know the idea of relative ease is talked about a lot in terms of knitting and sewing and plus size bodies, which is this idea that like as the size goes up, you want maybe less ease than like a smaller size would want, because it tends to look like more oversized, or like more like it doesn't fit on a larger body. But I just really love to be in something giant, so I tend to go for a little more ease in general, in most things. So yeah, I don't know if you can see in this light how like nice this yarn is. Oh yeah, wait. It's got like purple and orange. It's like an oatmeal with like a purpley pinky running through it, and there's like little pops of yellow throughout, and yeah, it's just really nice. I used up, I think I had bought 600 grams, and I do have a bit left. I know that for me 500 grams is like generous sweater quantity. So I was, even when I got this, planning on making something big. So yeah. And yeah, I did a tubular bind off, which I don't find to be a problem with Newton. I know some people say it's too annoying or it's not possible. It's definitely possible. I think I've talked about this before, but I just sort of spin it in my hands. I thought about spinning it on my spinning wheel, but I just never got around to doing it. But I just kind of twist it in my hands as I'm sewing, and I use shorter lengths so that I'm not like pulling, because if you pull pretty far it's going to break. So I'll use like, I don't know, a short length and then just felt another length on as I go. And yeah, so that's the Port Sweater by Ozetta. Yeah, I am happy with it. So yeah, that's that. Huge sweater. And I think the last FO I wanted to show you is some socks. So this spring, when things were not fitting how I wanted them to, and the stuff I'd already started was not fitting or not going well, I was like, I'm going sock mode. And I just got out the skein of my sock yarn that I was most excited about, and it was the skein of Urso Yarn Co. sock BFL. Oh, I think it's the blend. The base is called Petite Face Bleue, which is I guess BFL in French, maybe. And I made these. I made these socks. The colorway is called Eau de Rose, and they are the donkey cardigan socks. And when I was looking through my saved sock patterns on Ravelry, I had saved a lot of their patterns. So I'm putting it on my hand because it's ribbed. You can't really see the detail when it's all bunched up. Here, I made this sock. It just has a lot of really nice details, a lot of stitches that I recognize from the Japanese knitting. What is that book called? The Japanese Stitch Bible, which I have. But yeah, I just thought they were very beautiful. Okay, I'll take it off my hand. There's two of them. As is often the way with hand-dyed sock yarn, one is more variegated than the other, of course. So yeah, they have this nice, the cable goes into the heel, and then I like that there's this rib around like the ball of the foot. Yeah, and I just think they're really pretty, and holding them up like this isn't really doing them justice, but they were just so nice to knit, and I really knit them quickly, and it made me really want more of this yarn. So I don't really know how I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna have to go to some festival, maybe. Where I got this at Twist last year, maybe Twist this year? Question mark. These haven't been blocked or worn or anything. I was just trying to keep them nice for the podcast, and so they just sat in a corner. Here, this is a nicer way to see them. There you go. Why didn't I do that to begin with? But then you can't see the top. So yeah, you kind of get the idea. There's this ridge running up the middle. Yeah, so that's the donkey cardigan sock. These are some sock blockers that Kay and Izzo got me, which I've been meaning to hang on the wall somewhere, but I just haven't picked a spot. I still have a lot of stuff that needs to go on the walls in my apartment, so yeah, really pretty. I don't usually actually block socks, but I like sock blockers as decor. And also, like, I like the idea of finishing the first sock and hanging it on the wall while you finish the second one as motivation. So yeah, those are my last finished object. Yeah, and it feels weird to not talk about WIPs, but I won't. I'll save them. I'll save them for, in theory, I want to record later today, but we'll see. Okay. Spinning. I don't know where to start. I feel like this is going to be a very narrative recounting of my spinning. So, as you may know, I got a spinning wheel in November last year, and I bought this Louette wheel. It was vintage from the 80s from the woman who had bought it, and the first owner. And I really, in the fall, was not in a place where I was like feeling very much like learning something new. So it took me until January. I guess I said all I did in January was knit that sweater, but I also spun and learned how to spin. And partly because Rudy had also gotten a spinning wheel. Rudy, shout out number 2. And that really like motivated me to start trying to learn how to use my wheel. I'd spun with a drop spindle before, but found it too slow for me. And yeah, so Rudy was spinning, so we were kind of like supporting each other, and yeah, sharing resources, and I think that was really helpful. And I really, all I did in January was knit that sweater and spin. And I spun quite a bit. So I have this like handful of like tests and things that I worked on. So what can I show you first? How should I start? We'll say this is my first ever hand spun, which I've shown before on this channel. This was with the Ashford drop spindle. It's around, but I'm not going to find it. That I bought a couple years ago or last year. I can't remember. So that gives you an idea of where I was starting from. And this is my first. This is the same fiber. It's my first wheel spun yarn. So. And this is some Corriedale fiber that I had gotten from the breed study program from Longway Homestead. And I had gotten it a while ago, and I made this little tiny amount of spindle spun yarn. And then this was my first wheel spinning attempt, and I was really happy with it. I will say I had posted a picture of this on Instagram. And it looked better before I washed it. Or I was prouder of it before I washed it at the time, because it really fluffed up. Corriedale, I have discovered, just really fluffs up with washing. So yeah, those were some of my first spins. So after those first tests, I got out some fiber that I'd had for a little while. It was from Lily & Pine, I believe. Oh, there's a mess in here. And it was also Corriedale, and it was this fun, I think I'll put a picture here of the braid. Yeah, so I ended up spinning up this braid, even though I was feeling precious about it. And I made this like fluffy, come on, you can focus. Please. There you go. It's very fluffy, it's very thick and thin. I wish I could show it to you in the skein, but I started knitting with it. So this is what I have so far. I think this was my like first real attempt at spinning that I didn't consider a test, although it was like I was still learning. So I knit this like, I was wanting to knit the Harlow hat, but I just found a free brioche hat pattern. And then I never finished the top because I wasn't happy with the the cast on. So but I really did want to like knit with my hand spun. And I was also like, what? Am I going to wear this? So I just put it away, but I wanted to show you. Yeah, this was sort of my first attempt at using a nice braid that I had, and I think it came out fun. I would like to rip this out and do it properly. I have this little bag of half-finished things made with hand spun. After that, I had some, also from Long Way Homestead, some Icelandic fiber. And I was really intrigued to try that because it was so different. Like this was comb top. And this Icelandic fiber, I believe, was also maybe pin drafted roving, but it's like a woolen prep instead of a worsted prep. And I wanted to try that out and try like a longer wool. So this was the Icelandic that I spun up, also in a ball, lots of VM. I don't know if that's focused enough, but you get the idea. And I will say that the darkness of this yarn makes it look a lot more regular, like a lot more consistent than it actually is. But I really liked spinning this. I really liked the long staple length. And yeah, it made me want to try out lots of other different fibers. And with this yarn, I cast on a mitten. Cast on and completed a mitten. And, I don't remember the pattern name. So I obviously haven't woven in the ends. There's only one of them. And I finished it like too late in the season to be useful. But I think it's cute. It's just like kind of a broken rib pattern. I do think maybe I could stand to make the thumb a bit longer. The pattern was not in English. I think it was free. And I just like Google translated it. And it was kind of a bit difficult to follow. But it's also just a very basic mitten construction, so it was fine. And yeah, this is a really warm mitten. I do think that once it gets cool again, I mean, I think on the whole it could be longer in the top and in the thumb. So yeah, once it gets cool again, maybe I will add a bit of length and do the other one. It didn't take long. So yeah, those are my attempts at knitting with some of my first hand spun. I had initially tried to make colorwork mittens with these too, but they're so thick that it just wasn't working. And they didn't honestly look that good together for some reason. It seemed to me like they looked good together, but they didn't. Okay, so those are my first few attempts at spinning. What else? More things to throw away. After that, I think I used this fiber, which I'd shown on the podcast in the fall when I bought it. I think the same time I showed my wheel. It's from Crux Fibers. It's not really showing up true to color here. I wonder if... I don't know. No. It's a bit like the pink is more dominant. And it's looking very orange here, but maybe I can I think I have a picture of the yarn and a picture maybe of the fiber. Are they here? Maybe. And yeah, I'm glad I kind of just went for it and used my nice fiber. I was feeling really precious about it. I had 100 grams and I think I have wound up with, if I remember correctly, like 212 yards. And yeah, I'm happy with this. It's definitely not perfect. It's probably about it really varies in its thickness, as you can probably tell. But I really liked spinning with this blend, whatever it was. I think there was some Dorset in here mixed with some other things. And yeah, I have a plan for this, which is nice because I was just watching Mackenzie's new video, Sibling Energy, with her friend Tim, and they were talking about doing a sheep camp cowl, and I am planning to make a sheep camp sweater with this for the yoke. So it's not quite enough yardage, but this is my contrast color. It's Durero Natura Gilead in the colorway Fusain. And this is going to be my Rhinebeck sweater. I'm going to Rhinebeck this year. I don't think I've mentioned that before, but me and my friends have booked another little cabin to stay in, and I'm going to wear this at Rhinebeck, or not if it's too hot. But I did have a plan for making up the yardage. I ordered some of this fiber called Northern Lights from a website in Canada called Fiber Garden. And maybe I have a picture of the fiber before I spun it. I'll put it here. But I was just trying to match the general vibe of this, get some of the same colors. It looks maybe more accurate on camera than in person, but so this I spun later on. I was a bit better at spinning. So it's lighter for sure on the whole than the Crux fiber. But they're balled up because I have swatched with them. And I think I'm just gonna stripe this one in with this one. And I think it'll work. So yeah, I'm glad that I'm gonna be knitting with my hand spun, even my imperfect hand spun. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. I am doing it a bit off gauge. I'm gonna knit the size down at a larger gauge because of the thickness. Yeah, that pattern has kind of a weird gauge, and I just want to use this, so I'm going to make it work, and I am fairly confident that it will work. So that's that, and around the same time I spun the Crux fiber, I also spun the fiber that I got at Twist, which was also Urso. It's Corriedale again. It was 115 grams. I ended up getting 212 yards, so that's DK worsted. The colorway was called Ernestine Lily. I made these little tags for everything because I was getting confused. But yeah, I think this turned out really lovely too. And I wasn't really sure. I had a lot of fun spinning this, but I wasn't really sure what to use it for me. It's not really a color I wear particularly, even though I love it. So I decided to give it to my friend Izzo so they can knit their sheep camp for Rhinebeck. So again, the yardage is a bit short, so I'm going to do a similar thing, get something that looks a bit similar, and spin up something extra that they can supplement it with. And yeah, I'm excited for them to knit with my hands fun. And it's a really fun thing to gift to somebody. Yeah. And they're knitting, I think, their first sweater right now. They're making a cardigan, so this will be their second sweater. It just feels really nice. So yeah, those were most of the braids I started off with. And then, I just have a bunch of other experiments here that I'll go through quickly. One thing about my wheel is it's Irish tension, so it's really best for spinning thicker yarns, or doing art yarn or whatever. It doesn't have, it's a single treadle, so you can't get as much spin into the yarn as with a Scotch tension wheel. So I was just trying different things out. I think there's this kind of trap that we've fallen into because of the popularity of Spin Cycle. A lot of patterns that are written with that kind of color changing yarn in mind are written for sport weight yarn or DK, and I wanted to knit some of those fun things like the sheep camp, but I was having trouble achieving that yarn, so I was just really experimenting with different fibers, different kinds of preps, and seeing what my wheel could do. So I'll just show you some of the things I did. This was an attempt at cross-lacing, and I did wind up with this very fine, I think it's probably a fingering weight. So I cross-laced the flyer on my spinning wheel and was able to spin quite fine, but it wasn't fun. It was not enjoyable. It broke a lot. Yeah, you kind of get the idea. This is Corriedale again. It's very soft though, tiny soft little skein. So cute. What else? This, and I was also trying out different drafting techniques. So this was again Corriedale, but this was roving, not comb top. I think it must have been maybe the pin drafted roving from Longway. And I spun this, so this is a woolen prep, and I spun it worsted, with a short forward draft. And that is a lovely yarn, I think. I'm looking at it, quite happy with it. I don't know what to do with all these little skeins of white fiber. What else do I have here? Oh, this roving. Oh, I got some Romney. I ordered a bunch of roving I got it from Wabi Sabi in Ottawa, but it was milled at Custom Woolen Mills in Alberta. So it's all woolen prep, but they have a bunch of different breeds. So I ordered a bunch of those breeds to start experimenting with, and I really liked spinning with Romney. And again, this was spinning the woolen prep with a worsted draft, a short forward, and this was the same thing, but I think I put more twist in the singles. just going off my silly little labels here. So you can kind of see, yeah, and I was just experimenting with different ways to get more twist into the yarn on this Irish tension wheel, which it's right there, so I'm looking at it. And I was kind of getting frustrated with that. Although this is like very beautiful yarn, this is maybe my favorite of the experiments. I think it looks lovely. And I'd like to spin, I have some more Romney. Yeah, again, I think I really like the long wools. But I decided that maybe I should learn some more like woolen drafting. And maybe that would be more appropriate for my wheel. And I think this was my first attempt at woolen spinning. And I'm sure I probably didn't do like proper long draw. I definitely did a supported sort of backward draw without smoothing, if that makes any sense. And then I think this one was a little bit more of a conventional long draw, which I think is really nice. It looks nice. It's definitely not, it's more consistent than the first attempt. I was tending to like do a little bit and like practice and work out the kinks, and then move on to like just start again, and feel a little more comfortable. And I don't know what fibers these are because I never labeled them, so that's too bad. But yeah, those were my first sort of woolen drafting experiments. And then I sort of at that point was like, okay, I have all these little tiny bits and I don't really know what to do with them. And I was kind of reaching a point where I was like, what is the point of this? Like, obviously I like experimenting, but I want there to be a bit more purposefulness in what I'm doing. And I was like, I think I want a project. I'd like to plan a project. And I ended up buying some fiber from Myrtle Yarn, who's a dyer in BC, I believe. And she had an update, and I got 3 braids of Corriedale, which I'll put a picture. I think I have more than one picture, but the color was called Space Angel, and I thought it was really pretty. And my plan was I wanted to make the pressed flowers vest. And I really liked the sample. I'll put a picture here of it. I liked the sample because the color changing yarn was the background color, and the fuzz was the flowers. And so I spun up the Space Angel, and I wish I still had this in the skein, but I just balled it up. So, and I was really trying to hit that sport weight. And I think that, I don't remember anymore. I was really trying to take a lot of notes and do this carefully and look at the twist angle, and I was trying my best. I was really trying my best. Right, I was trying to get a sport, and I think I wound up with more like a DK, heavy DK, let's say. And this is one of the balls. And it doesn't look as nice on camera as it does in person. There's a lot more like variation and more pink than you're seeing. So yeah, I wish I don't know. I thought about rescanning this to show you, but I was like, who cares? So I really put a lot of effort and time into this, into trying to spin this for the specific project. I was trying to match, some Durarium Natura Ulysse, which is their sport weight. so that I could do it in those 2 yarns. And it just, in the end, it wound up being a DK. I swatched, and the swatch looked good. I didn't have the color that I wanted. Where is it? Okay, first I swatched with this was leftover of the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair. And I thought that looked good, but I didn't have enough of this to do it. And then I swatched with the Elise. And I thought that was really nice, but I didn't want to do this color. So I got a color that I thought resembled this, but it was like too light. The contrast wasn't enough. I started it like several times. I was trying to do it off gauge, and it just wasn't working. And I got really frustrated, and I just set it aside for a really long time. Yeah, so it didn't end up becoming a pressed flowers vest, but I said I wouldn't show you WIPs, but I'll show you this. I did just like 2 days ago cast on this amorphous blob. I cast on a cutting edge vest by Albina McLaughlin, and I'm not sure. I'm a little bit playing yarn chicken. But that's fine. So I'm glad to be knitting with this because I'm realizing things about the yarn, that I might not have otherwise, which is good and interesting. And I'm just going to pause here because I have to plug in my computer. Okay, sorry if I've moved slightly. I can't charge my computer and record on my phone at the same time. It's a mess. I can't really remember what I was saying, but right, I'm happy that I'm knitting with this, so that I can sort of learn more about the yarn that I'm spinning, and yeah, I think there are some things. I think the yarn looks really beautiful, and perfect. It looks perfect, but it is not perfect. I think it is. I think I have a picture here of it before I washed it. Yeah, I think the finished yarn looks right, but it doesn't feel right. And part of that is, I think, I mean, it's my inexperience, but also the things I was trying to do to work with my wheel to make the yarn that I wanted. So I had kind of, I guess towards the end of, I don't remember even when I was spinning this. I started a spinning journal, but I didn't really use it. Right, yeah, I was spinning this at the end of February. And I'd kind of developed this drafting style in hopes of mitigating like the low twist that was sort of happening with my wheel. I was wanting more twist, so I was kind of doing I like looked to see if anybody else does this and has a name for it, but I was kind of doing like a backward supported long draw, but kind of like traveling. I don't know if maybe this isn't interesting, but I was kind of like going back incrementally so that there was more time for more twist to build up in the yarn before I fed it into the wheel. And so the fiber was a worsted prep, but I was not smoothing it as I was drafting. And so it has a bit more of a fuzz and a halo to it. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but yeah, a little bit. This was spun with less smoothing while drafting than this one. And they're both Corriedale. But this feels a lot rougher than this. And I think it's because there still wasn't enough twist in this, so I like over plied it. I don't know. This is my theory. I do think it's over plied. I mean, you'll see I had put the photo of it pre-washing, and it's very kinky. But it did, once it relaxed, once I washed it and it relaxed, it looked normal, which is, I think washing the spun yarn is like one of my favorite parts, and seeing how it dries, it's just kind of like really magical. So yeah. And I think that's like coming across in the knitted fabric. You can see it just kind of looks, it's pretty uneven and bumpy, and it just feels ropey when I'm knitting with it. So yeah, I'm glad to have tried that. This really looks like nothing right now, but so this is a vest pattern that is steeked. So this is the neck, for instance, the neck steek. So I'll cut this open eventually. And yeah. I always see my little eye peeking around because I'm trying to see if you can actually see it. Again, the color isn't that great. It's not coming across that well. That looks nice. But yeah, I'm hoping the yardage works out with this. I'm definitely planning to make it more cropped than the sample. It's a pretty straightforward V-neck vest, but because of the steeking, you can do this like nice clean edge on it, so that's the option I'm gonna go with. And because it's top down and I have limited yardage, I can just sort of go until I run out, and then steek it and not have to worry about like adding like ribbing or anything. So yeah. And yeah, it's like the third day I've been working on it, and it is really fun, even though I'm like, this is not perfect yarn. It didn't work out how I wanted it to. I'm not making the vest that I had planned on. It's been really fun to knit with my hand spun, and to knit something a bit larger. So yeah, I hope my computer doesn't start dying because I have more to talk about. So yeah, I was really enjoying my wheel. And I had gotten to a place where I was like, I'm happy to work with what this wheel can do, even if it's not doing all the things that I would like it to, or that I would hope for from a wheel. But one thing, sorry, there's just no room to put anything anymore. I did start to notice with my wheel that I was having a lot of pain in my ankle. So my wheel has one treadle and it's on the right. Be weird if it was on the left. Yeah, I was treadling and I was noticing that I couldn't go for very long without it hurting. So I do have I've had injuries in both my ankles, but the right ankle was the more recent injury, and I have gone to physio and worked on it, and it's way better than it was before. It is a roller skating injury, which is embarrassing, but yeah, twisted my ankle while roller skating, had to go to physio, and it's better for everything except driving. If I drive for a long time, it can become a problem. I just need to drive a car that has cruise control, and spinning. So it was hurting my ankle, and I was like, what am I going to do about this? I'm really enjoying spinning. I want to keep doing it. How can should I buy a new wheel that is going to work better for my body and also maybe help me to achieve the yarn that I want to be making? And it does feel I felt bad, and I continue to feel bad because I feel like emotionally attached to this wheel, and I don't want it to think it's bad. But I really was like, I think I need an e-spinner. And that was not something I'd ever particularly been interested in, because I like analog things, and I like treadling, and I like the meditativeness of it, but I wasn't liking the pain. So yeah, I started researching e-spinners. I was thinking about getting an EEW, but there were none in stock when I was looking, and then I started researching further, and then unfortunately for me, came across dataless spinning wheels, which are another e-spinner company, like a 3D printed e-spinner company, which is like the EEW. I had looked a little bit into the Ashford e-spinner, and had heard mixed things, and it was like $1,000, and I was like, I'm scared to commit to something that is $1,000 that has mixed reviews. And yeah, the EEW wasn't in stock. I found dataless, and they just have such good reviews, and people were so like excited about them, and loving their dataless wheels so much that I kind of got my heart set on getting a dataless e-spinner. And once I get my heart set on something, it's really hard for me to get unset. And yeah, it was kind of an issue because they like operate on a shop update system, and they vend at like festivals and stuff, and they're also in the States. So I couldn't find one in Canada at the time, and I was thinking about the Sparrow, which is their smallest spinner, and would have been a fairly reasonable price, like maybe would have come out to a bit less than the Ashford e-spinner. But then I watched some reviews of the Sparrow. People were saying, oh, they wish they'd gone with the Starling, which was the slightly bigger one because it has more capacity in the bobbins, and it's just a little bit like more capable, or like a bit better for larger spins and things like that. And I was like, maybe that's the one I want. Then I got my heart set on it, and the way they do the Starling, the way they sell the Starling largely is through a wait list. So in February, I put myself on the wait list. And then I waited, and I was getting really impatient. And I had signed myself up. This is such a long story, but I don't know. You're here. You probably like listening to somebody talk about this for a while. So hopefully this isn't annoying. You can just skip it if you don't like it. So yeah, a while back, I feel like it was a month ago or so, I was getting newsletters from Dreaming Robots, who make the EEW, saying that it was coming back into stock. And I had no idea. The wait list for the Starling from Daedalus was, they said, like about maybe 6 months or less. And I was like, I'm not very far into this 6 months of waiting. And I was also unsure about the Daedalus because of the duty fees coming into Canada. If you don't know, ordering stuff from the States to Canada, you often, not always, can get hit with really high import fees. Seems kind of random. I've like talked to I think it's the UPS guy that comes to my house a lot. I like asked him like, how does it work? And he said it's something about like the taxing the materials in that country and this country. Anyways, I don't know how it works. And I wasn't sure how much it was going to be to get this Starling, and that made me nervous also because I was saving up money and I had money set aside in like different places, and I was like, I'm ready to commit to this. It's a large amount of money, but it would be nice to know how much that large amount of money was. But yeah, then the EEWs came up, and I was like, they're back in stock. There was a little bit of a sale. But then I was thinking again about the import charges and the duty fees and the shipping and everything. It wasn't, the EW is very affordable, but it's more affordable if you are in the States. Because definitely with our exchange rate and all those fees, it was still going to be like at least $500 Canadian to get an EEW plus whatever import charges. I think that's what I'd worked out. Don't quote me on that. But so yeah. But again, I also like had my heart set on the Starling, which I think it's a bit of a neurodivergence thing, or when I decide on something and I've like done the research, I'm like, that is the thing that I want. And I didn't really want to settle for the EEW, which was still a significant amount of money. And I'd heard mixed things. I've heard really good things about the EEW, but I've also heard some like less good things. And yeah, it was just seeming like a lot of money for like a bit of a gamble and not the perfect thing that I wanted. So I was texting Rudy about this, being like, what should I do? Should I like get an EEW for now? Because I really want to be spinning, but I'm not able to because of my ankle. I could get it and then I could sell it later when like the Starling comes up. And Rudy had kind of convinced me to do that. But then was like, oh, by the way, I saw this Starling on Facebook Marketplace, and I was like, excuse me? Because I looked several times, but there were just never any in Canada, probably partly because of that import fee. And Rudy was like, yeah, it's in Laval, which is the island just north of Montreal. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I looked at the listing, and it had been up for a couple weeks, and it was still there. I was like, this is amazing. It wasn't maybe the color I would have chosen. So that was my first hesitation. You can, because they're 3D printed, when you sign up for the Starling waitlist, you can pick what colors you want your, like the body of your spinner to be and what color the accents will be. And I picked like a hunter green body with like pink accents, and this one was white and pink, and I wasn't sure about the white, and anyways, but it was in Laval, and she had listed it for 1,600 Canadian, and it had 9 bobbins and the external battery so that you can use the e-spinner away from plugs. It had the long extension cable, and those were all things that I wouldn't have splurged for because I wasn't sure of what the cost was going to be. And yeah, I just was like, it's more stuff for potentially less money than I would have spent. Anyways, I didn't tell my mom's gonna watch this and be like, how much did you spend on that? I did ask her if she'd do 1,500. I don't know. I just think it's good to be transparent about the money side of this because it is not cheap. It's not cheap. And like, I can tell you I got one and then you can look it up and be like, oh, she spent a lot of money on that. But I'm just telling you now, I spent a lot of money on this. And yeah, that's what it is. So I asked her if she would do 1,500. She said yes. And I immediately got in a car share car and drove to Laval like half an hour later and bought it from her. And, you know, in a way it felt impulsive, but also not because I was like planning for it. I had set money aside. I have like when people pay for their haircuts, I cut hair, is one of my 3 jobs. When they pay in cash, I've been like keeping it separately. And then I have like one of those things in my bank account where you use your debit card and it puts like a little bit of money in a savings account. And so I was like slowly accumulating little bits of money that were going to go towards an e-spinner anyways. So I hadn't reached my goal, my financial goal yet. But then I also did my taxes and I got a tax return. So it's actually covered and fine. I could buy another one. I'm just kidding. I would never. But anyways, I should just show you, shouldn't I? So here it is. Here's my little starling. And the drive band is off right now because I think I had put it, I put it in Irish tension to ply. So this is one feature of this wheel, is that you can switch it from Scotch to Irish tension. It's cute, eh? And the color has grown on me. I really don't mind it as much as I did at first. So yeah, it's all 3D printed. It's really quiet, which is something I'm really appreciating. I like that you can switch it from Scotch to Irish. It's in Irish right now. But all you do to switch it to Scotch is to like disconnect this, flip it around, and move the drive band over here. Yeah, and I've got 9 bobbins. I have 3 with this aluminum. I forget what this part of the bobbin is called, but 3 that are aluminum and 3 that are plastic. 6 that are plastic. So these are like the updated bobbins. And I guess the woman I had bought it from had gotten 6 of the old bobbins, and then she got 3 updated bobbins, and I got to keep them all. So yeah, I could do a really huge spin. Like, you can fit a lot of fiber on here. I don't know what the maximum is, but definitely at least 200 grams of fiber, maybe 300. I'm not sure, but like 12 ounces maybe could go on here. So I'm like equipped for a sweater spin, bobbin wise. Yeah, so I'm really happy with it. It took me a minute to realize that this is for like tying your fiber on when you're taking a break. And it also has like an orifice hook here attached with magnets, which I really love. Very convenient. And yeah, it doesn't have a name. Maybe it should. I don't know why I think things should have names. I'm like not a namer of things, but I just feel like I should be. Yeah, and there's nothing on it right now. I'm just trying to decide what to do next. I have, well, here. First, I'll show you what I have spun. So the first thing I did was I had some fiber from Sweet Georgia in BC, and it was Corriedale, and this was my first spin on the starling. Let me get that out of the way. What is this colorway called? I forget. It's like something about hiking or trekking or something. I had bought some of this, and I was thinking, before I got the starling, I was thinking about doing a sweater spin with this, but I just decided it wasn't the right like shade for me. For some reason, I just was like, I don't see myself wearing an entire sweater in this color, which now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, why not? But I think it leans a bit yellow in person. It's a bit more yellow in person than it's showing up. And I think that was put me off of it for a sweater spin. So I had a few braids of this. And I do think that this is underplied, I will say. I think I could have put more ply twist in it. And I could always go back and put a bit more twist in it. I haven't washed this yet, so it was really just my test. But it is hanging very balanced, so maybe it's fine. Oh, it does have a bit of a twist to it. Yeah, I'm finding it easier to create a balanced yarn on this wheel in Scotch tension. I will say, when I first plugged it in, you control it. Actually, I'll go get it. Okay, this is the speed controller, which does come separate to the wheel, so you do have to pay. You see the wheel price, but then there's the additional price of the speed controller. So that's just something to know if you are interested. So you can change the speed, you can change the twist direction, and you can, if you have the extension cable, this is the end that plugs into the e-spinner. This one is long enough that this can actually act as a foot pedal. If you don't pay the extra for the extension cable, then you're limited to, like, you have to plug directly from this into the speed controller, and then you kind of have to just sit it next to the e-spinner, which is fine. Actually, I've found that I've mostly been sitting on the couch, which I really like. It's another nice thing about the e-spinner. I can sit wherever I want. I'm not limited to, like, I was kind of limited to sitting in my office chair with my Luette. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, when I first plugged it in, it was set at like 60%. And I was like, this is so hard. But I just had to turn the speed down. So I think I was spinning my singles at 40%, and maybe that's a speed I'll be able to increase once I get used to it. And then I plied in Irish tension at 50%. Yeah. So, yeah, that's a little bit about the Daedalus. In case you're interested, I have 0 regrets. I'm really happy with it. Yeah, I will say now spinning in Scotch tension, it's so much easier. I think maybe it's good that I learned in Irish because it was a bit more challenging. And it made it so that when I started spinning Scotch tension on the Starling, it was just so much easier. And I started to understand why people like short forward. Like, I didn't really get it at first. I was like, this doesn't feel natural or good. And now I understand why a short forward is what people default to in, like, the first draft that you learn, generally. Yeah, and then this was the next, I'm really, really happy with this yarn. This was the next thing I spun on the Starling. And again, it's reading pretty yellow in this light. I mean, there is yellow in it, obviously, but it is a bit more like pink and purple in person. I don't know if that gives you a better idea. Yeah, it's a lot richer in person than it's coming across. And this was some fiber from Akara Yarns, a Canadian dyer. It's a 100-gram braid. And I think it was just like British wool. I'm pretty sure that's what the fiber is. And I don't remember the name of the colorway. But I'll put it down below. Or will I? We'll find out. If I forget, you can just ask me. So yeah. And I feel like this is a sport weight. It's come out really, like, balanced and nice. I have washed this. You can see it hangs balanced after washing. And I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I love it. So yeah, it feels like I'm headed in the direction I wanted to head in. I think I can do a bit more. Part of the reason, I mean, people get really hung up on spinning fine, I think, generally. And I get that part of that is like it's like a skill thing, the ability to spin finely. And for me, I don't totally care about that, but I just was like, I'm buying these 100-gram braids of dyed fiber and getting 200 yards, it's like not very much yardage, and it's not gonna like produce yarns that are going to be good for knitting the things that I want to knit. But something like this, and now I definitely calculated the yardage and didn't write it down. And I'm going to have to do it again. This was over 300 yards from 100 grand braid. So I'm much happier with this as like an output. It makes it more feasible for me to eventually do a sweater spin of like hand dyed yarn, which is going to be expensive no matter what, like for my size. But yeah, I'm really happy. I hope that was an interesting journey for you to come on with me. And I think I have this other braid of Akara fiber that I got at the same time. It's so fun. I just like couldn't not get this. And so I think this is probably what I'll spin next. Although I'm like thinking about maybe I should try some long draw on the starling. Or just try some some more woolen prep fiber or something. Or maybe I just spin this up. I do have I have more like woolen prep stuff than I do braids of comb top. So this is white-faced woodland. Oh, I've never tried this breed, so maybe I'll do this next. I think this is really calling to me. It also just like kind of matches the wheel, which is funny. Yeah, I've been trying to like plan projects to go with the fiber that I have, but I think I should probably just spin. I'm like still learning the wheel, still learning how to spin. I think I need to like slow down and step it back. I think I like with this Space Angel, I kind of I overshot. There we go. I overshot my like ability level. And that was ultimately like a fairly expensive amount of fiber to buy. It was 3 braids. And yeah, I think it's turning out well and it's fine, but I kind of want to just slow it down and be a little bit more thoughtful and just try things, and then, you know, I'll eventually find some uses for this yarn. So thank you for coming to this very long episode. I feel like I can't make sentences anymore. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you're doing well. Let me know what you're working on. I love to read what other people are doing. I hope some of the spinning stuff was interesting or helpful, or if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And I guess I'll leave it there and hopefully be back soon with another episode, talking about some other things, my WIPs and some recent sewn things. So thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.